I'm Mrs. Munson, and this is my faithful companion Lily, and welcome to Repurposing Junk. I'm a retired teacher, and when I retired, I just had time to go out and do a lot of junking, and I really like junk. I like old stuff. I like to see the potential in things, and if you just keep going out and buying cool old stuff, eventually you become a hoarder. So I kept buying old stuff, and eventually I got on the funky junk circuit, which is just people that do the same thing. They repurpose junk and we sell it at junk shows. So while I'm doing the junk shows, people keep asking me how I get my ideas and where I get my junk, and it seemed like that would be a great topic for videos. So that's what I'm going to do. So welcome to Repurposing Junk with Mrs. Munson. Our first piece of junk that I'm going to tell the story of is this ukulele. It doesn't look like much, but we are going to turn it into a very cool lamp. That's one of the things I really focus on, are lamps, but not exclusively. So this is going to be a very cool lamp. We'll show you step by step how it was found, how I repurpose it, and what it will be like in the end. So stick with us. Ukulele lamp, I would like to use this old lamp, and the base seems like it'd be really good for the base of the lamp. So this is a lamp I got at the Goodwill, nice and heavy, and this will be a really good base. Probably paid $1 for it on an orange day. I rarely pay more than $1.99 actually. Sometimes I'll go $1.99, but I'm going to take it apart so I can use the base. Maybe I'll be able to use the lamp rod in here. That would be great, but hard to say. Definitely going to use the base though, so now I will get into the whole demolition process. Best to wear gloves, that way you don't have to be too fussy about things. Alright, I've drilled a pilot hole, and now I'm going to try and drill all the way through the top and down through the bottom. And I've never done this on camera before, so we'll hope for the best. Ukulele all drilled out. We've got our base, so next step is to get those guys put together a bit. Start by using the base weights. They came with the lamp we took apart. So let's use a lamp rod. You can buy this at the hardware store. We have a local one around here that I like. I'm gonna stick this through. The one that came on the lamp was too small, unfortunately, so just a standard size screw that is unfortunately not a standard size, it's lamp size. So if you go through the bins at your hardware store, it's not in the standard size screw bins, it's in the lamp size ones. like run one all the way down there, but that would take a long time, or I could have planned ahead and put one on there, but right now we're just looking for sizes, so all I gotta do is hold it. Now we're gonna fish the ukulele onto here. And the bottom hole is tight, of course. There we go. I got that lamp rod in here. There was a little bit of pounding, but no problem, got it in. Next step is to mark where I was going to cut it, but then I thought I would rather not have this threaded lamp rod show, so I was looking for some of my scrap pieces. I have this piece of lamp rod, and lamp rod comes in 2 sizes. I rarely work with the larger size, but I had a piece that was out of a scrap lamp. So what I did was cut the end off with my trusty hacksaw, and I'm going to use this to cover the threaded lamp rod. So it's going to be like this. And then I cut one end at an angle with my trusty hacksaw here, put it in my vise and cut it. I'll show you how to do that on my next piece. So cut this one on a bit of an angle. This is going to be where I'll mark for my cut on my threaded lamp rod. And then I'll take the whole thing apart, because this is just to decide how long this lamp rod should be. So now I know. So I'm going to need a little bit of space. We aren't going to use this as the scrap piece, but we're going to twist this on there. See, this piece will go on there. So I want to cut it a little above this so that I'll have room to twist that piece on. And I'm so used to doing this, I can just eyeball it. But we're going to cut this right about here. And then when we put it all together, it'll fit all nice and tidy, and we'll have a great piece. Now, not to worry if you do happen to cut it, a little bit off. You can always use, one of these pieces from your lamp, and just kind of put that in there like you meant to do it. It looks good, and nobody will be any the wiser. So now I'm going to disassemble this whole puppy, and I'll put it in my vise and show you how to cut with a hacksaw. No big deal. And basically we'll take it apart. Next step will be to finish the ukulele, because obviously it's not looking real good. We'll decoupage this with a bit of music, and we're on our way to having a beautiful piece. So here's the mark we made. Just going to put this in my vise. And hacksaw away. So I never took wood shop, and I'm not much of a craftsman. I just sort of started doing this. So there's probably a lot better ways to do this stuff. This is just how I do it. So if there's a better way to do it, by all means, go for it. We've moved on to the decoupage stage. And when I think of decoupage, I think of this, and this is what we used to do when I was a little kid. This has a notation on the back. It's from 1973, and this is how we used to decoupage. We used to burn the edges of a greeting card and then decoupage it on a plaque. It was so cool. So we're not doing this. We're going to decoupage music sheets onto our ukulele. And I have just about ripped half of this out. This is the jumbo book of songs, and I keep ripping songs out of this. There's still lots to go. It's been a really good resource for me. So I've cut some songs out of here. One of my favorites is, I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts. I like to kind of keep a few of the lyrics intact. So somewhere this one is going to be highlighted. So because this is in pretty bad shape, I'm going to cover the whole thing. Sometimes I like to leave like the bridge undone, but this is in pretty sorry shape. So I'm going to decoupage the whole thing. The Mod Podge that I'm using is matte. You can use whatever you like, but I think matte is the ticket. So I will give you some tips on it as we go along, but right now I'm gonna get started. Mod Podge has dried overnight, and you probably noticed that there is all this flopping over the edges, and that's on purpose. So the next step is sandpaper, and this is one of my favorite tricks. You're just gonna take, I like to start with a larger grit sandpaper, and that's how you're gonna trim it to exactly the right size. So you're going to sand away. And then that's going to tear off to exactly where you want it. So we're going to keep working away at this project and get it all finished up. And it's not going to be just edging out. To get it to exactly where we want it, as far as getting it trimmed up. I'm also going to use sandpaper to take care of all these places where I've put together lots of pieces. So I like everything to look old and aged, and that's what's going to happen here. I'm going to go through and just sand everything up. So that way it won't be such a sharp edge and everything will look a little more aged. I'm going to go through, and I'm using the lighter grit sandpaper. I'm going to go through and sand up here, and that will make the edges show up more here. There's metal where these finger things are. I don't know what you call those. But I'm going to sand here, and that'll make those pop through. It's just going to make everything come through a little stronger. It'll make everything look a lot more aged. It'll just make it look a little more like it was always had this paper on it, as opposed to how it looks now. Then we'll go through and do another step of Mod Podge. So now it's time to sand. Everything is now nicely sanded off. What you'll find when you sand it off is there's usually parts that are flopping off like this, and that's normal. So next step is to go back and give it a nice Mod Podge coating around all these edges. This is also when you're going to go back and find the spots that you missed, especially since this ukulele was bright blue. You don't want those parts showing up, so kind of go back and give it a little coat of just missed spots. When you do that, just tear a piece off. That gives you a nice edge that's not real sharp. So just give it a little a little patch like that. And nobody will be the wiser. Now remember that this is kind of vintage and old looking, so it doesn't matter sometimes if there is a spot that's missed. We're going to go back and give this a wax coating. So sometimes, like, I don't know, down here, I'm going to leave that warm spot. It'll look good. It just sort of depends. I just don't want any of that bright blue showing through. So now is another coat of Mod Podge. And like I said, I'm going to tack down all those spots. I am going to go through and give along all those edges that I sanded. You do want to just go through and give those a coating, otherwise they'll at some point they'll flop back up on you. So everywhere you sanded, go ahead and give them a coat so you know that they're going to keep a nice permanent edge for you. We'll let that dry and move on to the next step. Now that this has dried, we're going to give it a coat of wax, and the wax is really cool because it acts kind of like a stain, and you can get it in all kinds of colors. I'm going to use this. It's a gray, and it just makes things look sort of aged and old. This one's called Barnwood. Just lots of different color options, but think of it as an old stain. So you just put it on and then pull it off. So I'll do a little bit here. So don't be real careful about it. A thin coat, and then just take it off. And it just gives it that nice age, sort of a patina. You can always go back and put more on. If you leave too much on, sometimes you can't undo it. So it's kind of like cooking. You can always add more. But if you put too much on, sometimes it's hard to get it off. So it just makes it look aged. So I will go ahead and just age this up a little bit more. It doesn't really stick on metal real well. It tends to come off. I'll put it on these metal clasps, but they'll probably wear off. But it sticks beautifully on the paper. it's time to turn this into an actual lamp. So here we have the base. I've started with a cord that I've put through the lamp base. It came with this weight, so there's the cord that goes through the weight. I've put a screw here to hold the lamp rod, and then it goes on through. Then I put the lamp rod through the ukulele all the way through, and we'll go ahead and put the cord through the lamp rod. Now we're gonna stick this, let me get a little more, there we go. We're gonna stick this, the base, or the lamp rod is going to go through the base. And then because we were so clever and planned ahead, we'll take this screw and attach it. This rod a little while ago, and this is just to cover up this because that looks a little unfinished. So we're going to slide this over the top. So it'll make that look a little more finished. And this piece is going on here. And the reason I didn't tighten down the bottom piece completely is we may want to tighten it up a little bit more. This is where we can sort of monkey around with a little bit more. We want this to be tight and true, so perhaps we'll make this on the bottom a little more tight. So this is where we can justify that. Okay, so I don't think you're going to want to watch me do all this monkeying around with it. I will work on that, and we will work on making this electrified here in just a minute. Final step is to wire this up, and it's really not that hard to do. I buy these sockets online. It comes as a set like this. I've tightened this all up, so now this is nice and securely attached. This is the bottom portion of the socket. We're gonna put on this next, and I'm going to unscrew these right here. And the real trick to these is that there is one of these wires that has ridges on it. You can feel the little bumps. And the trick to this is the one with ridges goes to the silver screw. So it's part of the alphabet, Q, R, S. So the ridges and the silver, R, S. Ridges and silver go together. So you just turn that one down, wrap the R, the ridges and the silver go together. So you just wrap that around there. You loosen the screw. I didn't loosen enough, so I'll loosen it up a little bit. You're just gonna wrap that wire around the silver screw. And then you're just going to tighten it down. Easy as that. Tighten it down pretty good so it doesn't come loose. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the gold screw. I don't have a nice little jingle for that one. It's just the gold one. And you can bend it over with your needle nose. This particular cord is pretty simple. Some of them are a little harder to bend because you can use your fingernails. If you don't have one that's pre-finished like this, sometimes you have to strip the plastic away. But this one came pre-finished like this. So it's all ready to attach. Just got a loose plier again. There we go. Screw it down tight. Now, a lot of people do something called an underwriter's knot, where you would have taken these two wires and you'd have tied this cool knot before you attach them. I don't like to do that. I have another trick. But before I show you that trick, I always do a test. So I'm not plugged in at this time, so you can't zap yourself. I have done it lots of times, like lots of times. So don't have it plugged in at this point. Now you can, okay, it works. If you have crossed those wires, you will probably flip your circuit breaker and things will flash. It's kind of exciting. So you'll know if you haven't done it right. If you've done it right, it'll light up. I like to pull this down tight so it's seated nicely here. Kind of pay attention to where you're going to want it to turn on. I like to have the switch over on the side. And this is where I use my friend Gorilla Glue. And this is okayed by the Gorilla Glue company. I did a TV show in Seattle. And I called the Gorilla Glue company to make sure I wasn't doing something wrong. And they said that this was fine. So, original Gorilla Glue, if you've ever used it, it expands. And so I like to just put some original Gorilla Glue down here, just a little bit, down in the lamp socket, and it will expand, and it will just sort of sit there and expand around the fixture and keep it from jiggling around. And it works beautifully. Don't have to tie that silly knot. Even if you tie that knot, it tends to make things loose a little bit, and I just don't like that knot. So this works well. Now you're going to take this cap, put it on. A little of that Gorilla Glue will also kind of grow up around the cap and make sure it doesn't come loose. I'd like to take one of the tools and give it a little tap here. Make sure it's on there. Just make sure it's seated well. I'll usually give it a bit of a jiggle because oops, see, I don't like it on that side. Make sure it is straight, because if you didn't get it straight and on there right, and the Gorilla Glue expands up there, well, it's there, and it will stay that way forever. All right, now, as you've noticed, this is a little jiggly. I'm gonna shim it up a little bit, probably monkey around with the wire, some wire a little bit to make sure that it's gonna hold straight, and then it will be done. So just a little more finishing touches and this guy will be all ready. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.